We'll kick this off. Today is June 12th, 2025, weekly governance meeting for the TAN network. I think the last meeting we had a little discussion about different votes that we can do. And I'm glad to see a lot of participation in the community and appreciate Bill Poster for getting those up. So if we go over those, the first vote that we took was, should the community fund the creation of a nonprofit entity with liability protection prior to the official token launch? 11 votes for no, 7 votes for yes. So that will not be occurring. That doesn't mean that we can't certainly create a entity later on, to see if this thing has legs and gets going. That's just basically, was a question of, do we want to do that before the actual token launch? Next one was, how many signers should be required to approve transactions on a multi-sig setup? Pretty clear indication of 5 came in with 20 votes, which is good. I know it's not easy getting all the signers to sign, but in the Treasury we had 3 signers out of 5, but given this Treasury is going to be substantially bigger as it comes around to 80% of the tokens, you definitely want more security and more protection, even if it takes longer to do some dispersions. Now with 5 signers, you generally want more individuals that are part of the group that can sign. So, you wouldn't want 5 signers and 5 people, and then God forbid someone, got into an accident, you'd kind of be stuck. So you always want multiples. Let's say, out of 3 signers, you would have 5 people or more. 5 signers, maybe we would have, 8 people or more. But that's something to think about when we go to get that set up. We discussed, how many coordinators should be involved at the network launch. Now, that's not saying, forever. This is all very short term. What do we need to do to get this thing going? Pre-majority came in with 5 coordinators. That's something that we can certainly strive for, and let's hope that we have enough technical people with the capability in the community to run these. I believe, Saphir, you said even like DLT Green would support this if we got to that point. Was that correct?
Yeah, during the pre-launch conversations, I know particular people spoke and confirmed with DLT Green, but it'd be good to double check.
Cool. Okay, let's you could check, that would be great. Check with DLT Green. Okay, so if they were to support it, of course we'd have Tangle Pay would support it. And then I always like the idea of someone from the community, someone that's pretty tech savvy, but doesn't really have like an entity, isn't going to be going for grants or such, just basically straight from the community. I can't remember his name. We had one guy running, I believe it was one of the nodes for the Shimmer network, and he was great. He did a good job. But and that's something that we can certainly support with some incentives. But then, yeah, we'll probably need to maybe Bill Poster put a post out after this meeting to see, are there individuals in the community that are willing to run a coordinator for some incentives, some TAN tokens. The other thing that we kind of discussed was trying to take your draft paper, which I think was great, Saphir, and it seemed like the big next step for that would be that sort of technical lead position. In that technical lead position, be involved in coming up with a total supply of tokens, distribution, and then the sort of the technical aspects of what needs to be put in place to do the network launch. Now, in some discussions over the last week, and this is interesting, I didn't fully understand this, but Garrett had mentioned that basically the network is already launched. So they've launched, they have their social app going, DApp, I should say, and anyone else in the community can certainly launch a DApp. Now, saying that, I believe I didn't ask him if, how many coordinators there are, but there was a question of, if we were to give incentives, are we giving incentives in the uh, layer one tokens or sort of the BSC tokens? And what he mentioned was that, hey, basically the network's already launched. And I said, does that mean the network's launched, but the tokens haven't been distributed to the addresses per se? And he said, yes. So on the technical side of launching that network, it seems like there isn't much to it other than, I would think currently, I didn't ask this question, but I'm making an assumption here that, Tangle Pay is probably running one coordinator at this moment. If we want to, have these coordinators launch prior to the token distribution, that would be good to get in place. And then again, of course, deciding on the total token distribution, which that technical lead can take part in, and then we can certainly launch the network. Saphir also brought up some good points about, that technical lead position would also be someone that could determine, kind of what you were saying, Edward, last week of, what are the requirements for these coordinators, such as, memory, CPU, et cetera, to support the network at the infancy stage, the growth stage, and, anything later on. I don't know if the coordinators need to be, a beefed up supernode or not. But so I think today it would be good to try to articulate or discuss or kind of what are the next steps to at least posting this technical lead position so that we can give it a week or two and see if anyone wants to claim that position. If not, then we as a group probably need to just break down those bounties, come up with these sort of questions ourselves, and get this thing launched. So yeah, Saphir, since you wrote that draft, do you want to go a little bit more into what you think this technical lead position should be at this point?
Yeah, definitely. So just kind of building off of everything you mentioned, another huge part of the position is going to be around helping prioritize different bounties that we're going to have for the network. During the, I guess, pre-launch and white paper write-up, we had already put opinions out about the network focusing really truly on the feeless core value proposition on the layer one, and maybe leaning into different narratives around AI agents when it came to A16Z and how, or AI16Z and how they kind of like did that with Ethereum and other ETH-enabled networks. See where we could kind of dabble in similar areas by using the L1's feeless kind of USP as a win. So that was a proposal that was put out in the white paper, and we think might give us a strong footing. But there's a lot of other really good use cases when it comes to everything from just chain of custody, enabling different manufacturing use cases, et cetera, that we might want to focus on as a network. And that's ultimately going to be decided by the community. But I think whatever direction we decide to lean into, the technical leads will have to help with prioritizing which bounties will make the most meaningful progress towards hitting that end goal. So part of that job description and maybe part of today's conversation will be around where do we want to see some of this network activity really manifest itself first? Do we feel the white paper and what was brought up there is the most representative of like low-hanging fruit and wins that we could make? Or would something like building out EVM compatibility to start onboarding dApps ASAP be one of the other areas and directions that we can go in? So when we get a rough conversation around that, we can already kind of get an idea on some of these bounties that are becoming them. And then the tech lead will help with prioritizing it.
I like that. And yeah, and I think, I mean, we've had this discussion where, I think that any network that doesn't have some type of EVM integration is going to struggle to a point to really expand. I mean, it would essentially be like creating a town, economy, city with half infrastructure, um, EVM is just so ingrained, or move or whatever, but basically if this and to implement on chains, I think it's a limiting factor. Now, saying that, of what are the costs to that, the time involved, etc. I think that would be a good thing for this technical lead person to look at. Hey, here's the short-term plan to get this network launch. Here's a long-term plan. I think you talked a little bit the end goal, and that's something that we and that lead can discuss. Of what is our end goal? I mean, is it just basically ecosystem success, and what variables determine an ecosystem success? I would think up there would be the token value, so that you can fund ongoing development and expansion, and then of course community expansion, community involvement, number of dApps on the network, globalization of integration, et cetera, which should be pretty easy to come up with, even KPI indicators, especially at this early stage, and then kind of measure some success, as in going along those baselines.
Yeah. And JD, just to cut in, and forgive me if this would be an incorrect assumption, but because you guys did a lot of the legwork around this with the Shimmer community treasury, presumably we'd be able to piggyback off of a lot of things and potentially fork a lot of things. So would there already be a semi-established roadmap that we've got in mind, and perhaps ways that we could spin it out in a much quicker fashion than Shimmer to get up to parity?
I mean, I think when it comes to governance, absolutely. And I think you had basically the technical side, and then you had the governance. And I mean, I'm happy to take the governance section of that and support that. I think that would be pretty easy. What we never fully did in the Treasury, we started to, but we never completed. The IF really wanted a total separation of technical versus non-technical, but then at the same time kind of tried to use that against us and say, well, you guys, have no technical background. Any CEO, any manager, any business owner, you don't know everything. So you're hiring your managers, your technical consultants, et cetera, your engineers. And I can't remember the name, but the IF uses them, but they are very deep into everything Tangle. And basically we're a for hire consultant company contractor. So if we get to the point where we get some value in this, we certainly can integrate some of those companies, and their department even holds IOTA, Shimmer, et cetera. So if they were to have any and get some TAN tokens, but they also, they're very niche within their global company, where their company said, hey, go to these very high risk market niches and try to come up with something. And so they were allowed to go into DLT space and crypto, and basically what they try to do is, not just for a contracting fee, but also try to get some equity in these projects, which is smart. But I think that easily